Today I'm showing you how to build my heavy build, which I use to wreck the standard playthrough and New Game Plus. I have live streams on New Game Plus, and I have every boss battle beat on the standard playthrough on my channel. Literally one of the first people, if not the first person, to beat the game. Every boss I beat after getting going to the halfway mark, I guess people started failing or whatever. All my bosses were .01 achievements, so definitely can attest that this build straight wrecks. And now I'll get into basically everything involved and what you need to know for this build. Alright, I'm going to start with the P organs. So the first one I took was increase pulse cells. Now we do want to put 2 into this because we do want the bonus. So early on, these are level 1 ones. I have lower the stamina consumption of charge attacks because this is going to be a heavy build. Also, late game, it does convert into a heavy and light build, so you have the light available when needed, which is almost never actually needed. It's just a little bit more convenient. Then I have lower the damage received when dodging, because you're going for constant heavy attacks, and when you do not have your heavy attack available, you have to dodge. So either that or sit and parry, but when I'm not trying to parry and I am trying to dodge, I like that. You could go with something else, but that's what I went. And then I also went with link dodge and enhance the stagger attack of charge attacks once again, and enhance guard regain recovery when attacking enemies. The other 2 bonuses in phase 1 were purchased later, so we'll be circling back to them. Next, you're going to be taking add amulet slots 1. Extra amulet, we're going to be needing one very early in the game to very late in the game for the extra weight until we have enough levels where we can drop that amulet and just have enough levels and capacity where we don't need it. So an extra amulet is huge. We're going to be reducing the stamina consumption from dodge. We need that stamina for our heavy attacks. Also going to be lowering the damage of charge attacks. So if we take damage while we're doing a charge attack or a fable attack, which sometimes does happen because it takes a little bit to build up that attack, then if we do get hit, we get reduced damage. Also going to be taking increased pulse cells, so we get an extra pulse cell, increasing the recovery of it, and increasing the duration of our grindstones for the bigger, tougher enemies, so we have it long enough where we can take out the tougher dudes. Once again, we will be circling back to the other 2 in phase 2. Now we'll be taking increased cube uses, enhanced charge stagger attack for enhancing the stagger attack of our charge attacks. We'll increase our pulse cells again there, and we'll increase our witchstone uses for how quickly we can use them. This is huge for boss fights. Also, my favorite cube for the boss fights, generally 90% of the boss fights, is the one that gives it extra defense. I found you can generally keep it alive very easily. You'll either do about 75% damage, or you'll kill the boss before your specter dies with 2 cube uses and using the witchstone quickly, which allows you to immediately use the witchstone when the boss aggroes to your specter, and then you can quickly pop your grindstone and flank the boss and then get a stagger and do heavy damage early. And if you already farmed out a fable attack, then you can open with that as well after you do your grindstone for massive early damage. So this is really big for boss fights. Also going to be taking enhanced pulse cell recovery 2. We'll be lowering the guard regain reduction for when we are blocking. Charge fable when reviving is absolutely not needed. I kind of put that on thinking it would max out my fable, and it'd be kind of cool if I did fail on a boss or jumped off the cliff or something. But it only gives you 1 bar and not like 4 or 5 once you get going, so it is completely useless. That should be way late in the game when you run out of options. Don't put that on. Put on something else that's going along with the ones I'm showing you. Then we have perfect guard destruction, so we increase the destruction damage to enemies when we do a perfect guard. So on the harder enemies that we do actually have to sit there and block their attacks and some of the bosses, then this comes really good when we hit them after getting the block. Next, we're going to be adding another amulet, because at this point you might be around the point of dropping your weight, and if you are, then you have 4 amulets, and if not, then you still have 3 amulets. So we're going to be taking another amulet slot. We're going to increase the pulse cells once again, increase our Fable Arts, and increase our fatal attack. We don't have to worry with the little dudes with such a heavy weapon. We just need massive damage on our combo to take out big dudes. Along that train of thinking, we're going to be increasing our special grindstone uses. So we have another one. Basically, you're going to use one on every big dude. The worst ones in that section are the ones you want to save your grindstone for. So now we have 2 grindstone uses. So we have one for 2 different enemies, and we have 2 for the boss fights, which is really big on the 2-phase bosses. So we can use one on the first phase and then one on the second. And we'll be lowering our Fury attack damage, which lowers the damage received from a Fury attack, which is one of the harder ones to deal with this build. So that's pretty good. Then I did increases Ergo because I'm at the point where this build is really solid. So I want more levels. So I started increasing my Ergo and enhanced stagger attack from behind for the boss fights. So now that we have tier 5 abilities unlocked, I went back and got some of the better, cheaper ones. I'm not sure the exact order I picked these up in, but I have Rising Dodge was definitely the next one I'd probably recommend. Increased pulse cells, and I have lower charge attack stamina consumption. Next, I think I took increased stagger window. I enhanced fatal attack, and I enhanced the special resistance. Next, I think I took the add Fable slots, enhance attack when HP is at maximum, which are generally at maximum for the most part, especially on those opening attacks. That helps out. And then we have increased pulse cells once again. Then I believe I took retain guard, regain 1 for the auto charge Legion, which is actually really good too. You could put the auto charge Legion in a little bit earlier, in place of maybe that one, if you could, the one I showed you before for the charging Fable and reviving. Definitely get this auto charge Legion a little bit earlier. That one's actually really nice. And then we have enhanced guard regain recovery 2. And lastly, I have enhanced pulse cell recovery 3 with more money upon eliminating enemy, more damage. We lower the damage taken while dodging, and more damage on our fatal attacks, and we charge the Legion while eliminating an enemy. So also did pick up 2 more on the 4. I think these were around the same time. Let me show you these. I have perfect guard causes stiffness, and I did charge Legion while eliminating an enemy once again. Enhance attribute resistance. That's actually another good one. You could do that a little bit earlier in place of the other one as well. We have lower natural recovery upon weapon attack. So we reduce the amount of enemy natural HP recovery when attacking them with a weapon. That's actually really good on the hardest non-boss fights. Then we have add Fable slot 2 for increased stagger duration 2. And more money, because at this point we just really want more levels. Everything's already done. And then enhance attribute resistance. So we have both the attribute and the special attribute resistances. So I started the game off with the Great Sword of Fate Blade, and I put the Police Baton, which you get very early, as the handle. That seemed to give it the most amount of attack power. This one actually swings moderately fast. This one is very easy to use. It doesn't do as much damage as the one we'll get into in a moment, but it is really good for starting off the game, especially because before you get to NG+, they don't have an insane health pool. So you're on par with dealing a lot of damage, and it actually attacks quicker. So went with that right there. We had the Link Slash. What you do is you really want to build it up to 3 too, because if you hit them with 3 back-to-back Link Slashes, mainly if you hit them with the last one in a 3-hit combo, it staggers them and does heavy stagger damage, which allows you to then put in another 1 to 2 charged attacks very easily, potentially even a third how they come off of it. And by that time, you're basically guaranteed to have a fatal attack, which after you do that, then you can hit them for another couple charge attacks, and they're probably dead at that point if it's not a boss. So, went with this weapon for the very heavy damage, the good techniques, and it also has moderate fable charging. So, it was really nice, especially at 12.6. This is definitely doable until you start getting serious levels because it doesn't weigh too much. It's not insanely heavy like some of the other ones that can weigh like 23. This build right here is actually a very light, insanely heavy hitting for its weight. So then I took, where was it? This one right here is the later game and new game plus heavy weapon. This is an absolute monster. This puts in right now 350 plus 230 damage, up 262 with an insane pulse charge and fable charge, and its single slash does insane stagger and very good damage. And then occasionally, strategically, you can use Liberate as well. That actually comes in really handy sometimes when fighting the bigger dudes, when you just can't get your charge attack off quick enough. But with the Liberate, you can get yours off in between their attacks. So that Liberate does come in handy quite often. It has very good damage reduction while guarding, by the way. So does the other's Greatsword. It has basically A tier for the damage reduction while guarding. And for its weight, it's fucking really good. And for this, you could go mobility for the handle. You could enhance the mobility. You can enhance the mobility or the technique on the other one. Either or, depending whether you're going heavy on the technique. If you built into the levels a little bit earlier than I'm going to suggest, then you might want to go with the technique over the mobility. And really late game to add a really fast weapon for a couple of the fights that are really harder and they have insanely quick attacks. Sometimes this does come in handy to just finish them off, and like you can just stick and move and jab. This dagger is so fast. One, on the little ad dudes, all you gotta do is be like RB, 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 all the light attacks. Just spam light attack real quick and it staggers, and you just spam it like 4 or 5 times and they're dead. So on the little dudes, you just walk up to them and just run right through them. It also has a very good heavy attack, and you have 2 options. You either have a heavy attack which hits a couple times and throws out an umbrella, or you can hit it once and you'll hit once and then you'll dash back. All the moves are really strategic. This is a really good dagger that it puts in very decent damage. It still has single stab, but it's really hard to build that up on the dagger, so you don't use it as often on the heavy one. You'll hit a lot more times and have less single stabs, but it does hit hard for the single stab, and I don't really fuck with the absolute counter attack. If I'm gonna do that, I'll just do a perfect parry instead. I don't waste that. I keep my fable for the offense, but you can't change out the second one, and this is the only really fast special weapon that has really good damage and moveset that I saw. And I didn't play with them all, but I can attest for a light weapon, this is insanely good. Like, I just did, what was it? The Door Guardian on New Game Plus. Fucking just stick and move, fucking wreck them. Like, and the fucking chick that you have to do the 1v1 right before her, the witch that does the duplicate with the insanely fast knife, fucking tore her up with this too. It's a really nice dagger right there. So that is the weapons I'm recommending for this build in the order that you should acquire them. Now, the amulets that are generally used. We have increased max HP increased stamina. This one is mainly used for the dagger. You won't be using this when you're using the great sword. We have restores HP continuously. Like I said, I just fought the door guardian, so that's why I had that on. Occasionally you can run that as well. Getting started, you're probably going to have to constantly be adding the weight, extra weight capacity on. I'm not going to actually find all these. I know what the good ones are. Increased stamina recovery is another good one. If you can spare one, increasing ergo is good. Then we have, I said increased stamina. Yeah, those are basically the only main ones. So for our arm, the fireball one that lets you shoot the projectiles, that one is really good. Starting off, you might want to just use the whip. You pull them in, and then for the most part, on the standard first playthrough, you can just hit them with the heavy or light attack. That whip comes in really handy, pulling them in a lot of the enemies. And then once you get to late first playthrough, early new game, definitely going to be going a lot more heavy with the cannon. The cannon's the one you're probably going to be running 90% of the time. And lastly, let's get into how to level up. So the first thing we need is we do need enough capacity to hold what we're using. Now, for the most part, before you get to like level 100, you're just going to have to use a weight amulet so you can get some points into the other good ones, because you are going to have to go heavy on capacity and maybe respect once after you get to the point where you can have a build and not have to use the weight amulet anymore. Then for your vigor, you kind of want to run it up to like, I think it's 21 or so. You don't have to go this high. Once it stops getting like +4, you can stop, because you're getting all the stamina off your amulets anyway. Vitality, you can stop when it goes to like +10, or it stops dropping. When it drops to like +8, then stop putting points into it, and then wait till like everything's evened out and you get to a really late game, and then it really doesn't matter what you're adding into. You're kind of just like going one and then going one to the next, and only have enough capacity to run what you want to run. There's no need to go higher than that. Motivity or technique, you're gonna raise one to at least a moderate level of like 15, and then whatever you make your handle, that's the one you'll be raising. So if you make your handle technique, then you want technique higher, and if you make the handle motivity, then you raise the motivity higher. Now this is really high, but once it stops getting to like +4, when it starts going to +4, stop worrying about it so much. Like, you're not getting that much of a benefit off of it. And you don't have to add into this to really late game, but you do want to have some, at least like 15 or so into advance before you get to beating the game. You might have to respect as well. The last two boss fights are by far probably the hardest. They're definitely S-class bosses, and they also have extreme elements, so this does help a little bit with those fights. And that's basically the build. Like, it's pretty simple. If you have any questions, just ask. But that is my heavy build. I have every boss fight up and most of the human fights as well. I skipped over posting a couple of them because I posted so much, but you can see how to play this build. Like, it just straight wrecked. I ran straight through New Game Plus. I'm at the very end. I just been playing Payday 3. I could finish this right up in like 30 minutes, but maybe an hour. But anyway, this is my heavy build, and I definitely can attest that it wrecks. If you like the video, leave a like, comment, share. It helps others find the video. I hope this helped.